The folder hit Dante Moretti's desk hard enough to make the glass of water beside his hand tremble. He didn't look at the folder first. He looked at me, then at the two men standing behind me, then back at the folder. "You brought this into my building," he said. I kept my hands at my sides. "I brought it because I wanted you to see it." His expression barely changed, but something in the room did. The two men behind me shifted their weight. I had been warned about Dante Moretti. Everyone in Chicago's corporate underworld knew his name. He owned shipping terminals, trucking companies, warehouses, and enough legitimate businesses to keep a small army of accountants employed. The rumors were different. Some said he had inherited a criminal empire. Others said he had rebuilt it into something cleaner and more powerful. The only thing everyone agreed on was this: you did not walk into Dante Moretti's private office unless you had accepted the possibility that you might not walk back out. I had accepted it. What I had not accepted was being afraid. "Open it," I said. Dante leaned back in his chair. He was not the loudest man in the room. That was what made him dangerous. He never needed to prove he was in control. Everyone else seemed to understand it before he spoke. He opened the folder. Inside were copies of bank transfers, shipping manifests, internal contracts, encrypted payment records, and 3 pages from a financial investigation that had officially disappeared 6 years earlier. His eyes stopped on the 3rd page. I watched the change. Not fear, recognition. "You know this report," I said. He looked up. "Where did you get it?" "That isn't the question. It is now. My question is why your company paid $12 million through 3 shell corporations, and why the man who found those transfers died with his reputation destroyed." The 2 guards looked at Dante. He didn't look at them. He turned another page. "Who sent you?" "No one." "That's not an answer. It is the truth." His eyes narrowed. That was the first moment I knew he understood I hadn't come here to bluff. I reached into my coat and placed a small black drive on his desk. "This is a duplicate." His gaze moved to it. "The original? Somewhere you won't find it. And if I keep you here, the files go public. And if I hurt you, they go public. And if you disappear, they go public." For the first time, the faintest trace of amusement touched his face. Not warmth. Interest. "You prepared for me." I prepared for someone who might think fear was enough to make me careless. Dante stood. He was taller than I expected. He walked around the desk and stopped several feet away. "Who are you?" "Elena Valli." "I know what your resume says." That surprised me. "You looked me up." "I looked up everyone who has ever tried to enter my company carrying a threat." "I didn't threaten you." "No. I offered you a trade." He glanced at the folder. "What do you want?" "Access." "To what?" "Your internal records." He stared at me for several seconds. "My records are not available to outsiders." "Then destroy the drive." His jaw tightened. "You don't understand what you're asking." "I understand exactly what I'm asking." I had spent 6 years building toward that moment. My mentor, Samuel Valles, had taught me how to find missing money, altered records, hidden ownership structures, and false audit trails. He had also taught me that the most dangerous lie was not a fake number. It was a real number placed in the wrong story. 6 years ago, Samuel had uncovered a network of shell companies connected to Moretti Logistics. He had reported it. Within months, the investigation collapsed. His professional license was suspended. His clients abandoned him. His name became associated with fraud. He died 2 years later without clearing it. I had never accepted that. I believed Dante Moretti's lieutenant, Victor Sloan, had destroyed the evidence. I believed Dante had either known about it or chosen not to ask. I had spent years collecting proof, and now I was standing in his office. Dante opened the folder again. "You believe Victor Sloan destroyed your mentor." "I know he did." "You're wrong." The answer came too quickly. I stared at him. "You didn't even ask what I have." "I don't need to." "Then tell me." Dante looked at the documents. "Victor didn't destroy your mentor's evidence." My pulse changed. "Then who did?" He didn't answer. That silence told me more than his words had. "You know," I said, "I know someone wanted me to believe I knew." That was not the answer I expected. I stepped closer. "You're protecting them." "No." "You're afraid of them." "No." "Then why won't you tell me?" "Because I don't know who they are." I studied his face. For the first time since entering that room, I wondered whether I had come to the wrong man. Dante looked toward the clock. You have somewhere to be? I have a life outside this building. Not tonight. I turned toward the door. One of the guards moved in front of it. I stopped. Dante's voice was quiet. You're not leaving until I understand why someone wanted you to bring that archive to me. My anger rose. So this is your answer? Lock me in. I said you're staying. You don't own me. Something flashed across his face. No, he said, but someone may think they do. That sentence followed me through the next few hours. Because the truth was, I had walked into Dante Moretti's world believing I was hunting a monster. Now I was beginning to wonder whether someone had designed the entire hunt. Dante did not take the drive. He did something stranger. He gave it back. Keep it. I stared at him. You're not going to destroy it? No. You're not going to copy it? I already know what's on it. That made my stomach tighten. Ow! Because the information is old. Then you know who did it. I know where it began. He returned to his desk. I'll give you access to one section of my internal records. Why? Because you think I'm responsible. Edo. And because if you're wrong, I want to know who made you believe it. I hesitated. And if I'm right, then you can destroy me with the evidence. There was no hesitation in his voice. That bothered me more than anger would have. I agreed. The next morning, I was sitting in a restricted records room beneath Moretti Logistics. I had expected locked cabinets, hidden ledgers, maybe evidence of the kind of criminal operation people whispered about. Instead, I found organized systems, contracts, tax filings, employee records, shipping schedules, compliance reports. Dante had not built a chaotic empire. He had built a machine, and he knew every moving part. For 3 hours, I worked without speaking to him. Then I found the first transfer. $800,000. A legitimate company. A legitimate account. A legitimate invoice. Except the shipment attached to the invoice had never existed. I pulled another file. Same structure. Then another. The money kept moving through companies that appeared independent. But they all ended in one place. Dante Moretti's corporate network. I expected satisfaction. Instead, I felt confused. Because the authorization codes were Dante's. The timestamps were not. I checked his schedule. He had been in a board meeting when one of the transactions was approved. I checked the second. He had been on a flight. The third. He had been standing in front of a room full of employees. Someone was using his authorization. Dante appeared behind me. You found it. I turned. You knew. I suspected. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't know if you were part of it. I pushed the records toward him. You think I forged these? I think someone wanted us to think you had. He studied the timestamps. His expression hardened. Someone inside my organization has been using my identity. You're sure? Yes. Ow! He pointed to the screen. Because I remember where I was. I almost laughed. That isn't evidence. No. He looked at me. But it's enough to know someone is lying. For the first time, I saw something beneath the coldness. Discipline. Dante did not react to problems with panic. He narrowed them, reduced them, found the smallest point where they could break. He gave me access to another archive, then another. By evening, I had forgotten that I was supposed to hate him. Not completely, but enough to notice. He remembered the names of employees. He knew which warehouse had a broken loading gate. He questioned a manager about a late payment to a driver. He refused to approve a contract that would have saved his company money by shifting costs onto temporary workers. You're not what I expected, I said. He looked at me. That's because you believed people who benefited from your expectations. I didn't have an answer. That night, someone sent me a file. No name, no message, just one attachment. My mentor's final report. I opened it. My hands went cold. There it was. The original conclusion. Moretti Logistics had caused the collapse of Samuel's investigation. Dante's organization had ordered the evidence destroyed. Victor Sloan's signature appeared at the bottom. Everything I had believed was suddenly back in front of me. I closed the laptop. Dante was standing across the room. What's wrong? Nothing. He watched me. You're lying. I slipped the file into my bag. I said I'm fine. I walked past him. He didn't stop me, but I knew he had noticed. If you were Elena, would you trust Dante with evidence that could destroy him? Or would you keep it hidden until you knew who was lying? I chose to hide it. I spent most of that night comparing the signature on the report to older documents. The more I compared them, the worse it became. The signature was authentic. Victor Sloan had signed other documents exactly the same way. But there was something else. A second signature. A name I recognized from Samuel's old notes. Richard Hale, chief financial strategist for Dante's father's organization. Richard Hale had died 9 years ago. At least, that was what every official record said. I searched the death certificate, then the employment records, then old court filings. The signature belonged to the same man. I carried the documents to Dante before sunrise. He read them without speaking. Then he sat down. I know him, he said. You said he was dead. He was supposed to be. What does that mean? When I took control of the company, Richard disappeared during an internal investigation. You were told he died. Yes. And you believed it. Dante looked at the page. I was 27. His voice changed slightly. My father had just been killed. Half the company wanted me gone. The other half wanted me controlled. I had people smiling at me while planning how to remove me. He paused. Richard was one of the few people who warned me. About what? About a system being built inside the company. What kind of system? One that could survive anyone. I stared at him. A hidden financial network. He nodded. I thought he meant money. And now I think he meant control. The word sat between us. Control. It was the word Dante understood better than anyone. That afternoon, federal agents entered one of his corporate offices. They arrived with warrants. Dante did not run. He did not threaten them. He called his attorneys and instructed them to cooperate while preserving every document. I watched from a hallway. You're not fighting them, I said. Why would I? You're Dante Moretti. And people say you don't cooperate. People say many things. He turned toward me. Sometimes the fastest way to prove you're innocent is to stop behaving like you're guilty. That sentence stayed with me. Then I found something that made my blood turn cold. The warrant was based on evidence from my archive. The same archive I had carried into Dante's office. Someone had planted information inside the evidence I trusted most. I felt suddenly sick. If my own evidence had been compromised, then I had not brought Dante proof. I had brought someone else's weapon. Dante moved me into a secure residence that night. I hated it. The house was beautiful. That almost made it worse. There were no bars, no guards inside, no locked doors between me and the outside. Dante stood in the entryway. You can leave. I looked at him. Then why am I here? Because whoever planted the evidence knows what you have. So you're keeping me safe. No. His answer surprised me. I'm giving you a safer option. I cross my arms. And if I leave, I won't stop you, even if you think I'll be attacked. Yes. Why? Because protection isn't permission. I stared at him. He walked away. That sentence bothered me for the rest of the night. Later, we worked at the kitchen table. No guards, no threats, just files spread between 2 cups of coffee. I found myself laughing when Dante misread one of my handwritten notes. You write like a doctor, he said. You run a criminal empire, and you're criticizing my handwriting? I'm criticizing your filing system. You're lucky I haven't left. You've threatened to leave 6 times. And you haven't. I looked at him. He smiled. It was small, almost unfamiliar. For a few seconds, the investigation disappeared. Then I noticed the security monitor. One camera was offline. I checked the system. Nothing. No alarm. No forced entry. But something on the table had moved. A small silver keychain belonging to my mentor. I had placed it beside my laptop. It was now on the opposite side of the room. I stood. Dante was beside me immediately. What happened? I didn't move it. He checked the room. Nothing was missing. That was the point. Someone had entered. Someone had touched my things. Someone wanted me to know. Dante checked the security records. No breach. I pointed to the backup system. They knew where that was. He looked at me. Only 3 people know. 4. Who? Me. His expression changed. The safe side of Dante's world was no longer safe. Then I found a note in Samuel's archive. 2 words. Mara Voss, the woman who had disappeared after investigating the same network. The person who entered the safest room in Dante's world left no weapon behind, only a message, and what I found next changed the entire investigation. Mara Voss had been Dante's father's compliance director. She had reported irregularities in shell companies. Then she vanished. Dante remembered her. She told me someone was building something inside the company. What? A structure that could survive the family. Why would someone build that? To make sure no one person could destroy it. I looked at him. And your mentor? Samuel wasn't fighting my family. I felt the words before I understood them. He was continuing Mara's investigation. Dante nodded. Everything I had believed about Samuel's work shifted. He had not spent 6 years trying to destroy Dante. He had been trying to uncover something older, something that had existed before Dante took control. Then the photographs appeared online. Dante and me, leaving the office, entering the secure residence, sitting together in a restaurant. The headlines were brutal. Mafia boss's secret accomplice. Corporate investigator joins Moretti empire. Whistleblower becomes Moretti insider. My licensing board opened an investigation. My professional reputation began collapsing within hours. I wanted to scream. Dante offered to handle it. No. His eyes narrowed. I can stop this. You can make it worse. I can control the story. That's exactly what I'm afraid of. He went silent. I looked at him. I built my career on evidence. If you defend me because you're Dante Moretti, they'll say I used your power. So what do you want? Access. He handed me the keys to his communications archive. Then build your own defense. That was the moment something changed. Not because he saved me, because he didn't. He gave me the tools and let me fight. I chose to fight. And the deeper I went into his communications archive, the more disturbing the pattern became. The person who had leaked my photographs was not an outsider. The leak came through a public relations consultant hired by Dante months earlier. Someone on the safe side had opened the door. Dante's organization began turning against him. Executives questioned his leadership. Investors threatened to withdraw. Lawyers advised him to remove me from the investigation. Some suggested handing me to federal investigators. Dante refused. Not because he trusted me blindly, because he trusted evidence. That mattered. I found another contradiction in the authorization system. Someone had replicated Dante's digital approval without stealing his password. They hadn't hacked him. They had copied the system itself. Then we found the pattern. Every time Dante and I had suspected each other, someone had fed us a different piece of truth. The evidence had been divided. My mentor's records pointed toward Dante. Dante's internal records pointed toward my mentor. Every trail led in a circle. I stared at the timeline. No. Dante looked over. What? My first meeting with you. What about it? It wasn't random. He said nothing. Someone wanted me to bring the archive here. And they knew what was inside. I looked at him. They knew you would stop me from leaving. His expression hardened. They planned the meeting. My entire body went cold. Every assumption from that first night cracked open. The anger, the suspicion, the archive, even the fact that I had believed I was choosing the confrontation. Someone had built the road and waited for me to walk down it. If you thought I chose Dante because I needed his protection, this discovery changes everything, and the next step was far more dangerous. The conspiracy did not begin with Dante's organization. It began with the person who taught me how to investigate. Samuel. I refused to believe it. For hours, I searched his private notes. Then I found the inconsistencies. Pages had been rewritten years after the dates printed on them. Mara Voss's name appeared in places I had never seen before. There were messages between them. Samuel had known Mara. He had been communicating with her shortly before he disappeared from public life. Dante helped me reconstruct the messages. He didn't interpret them. He didn't tell me what to believe. He simply put the information in front of me. I read the final message. Samuel had known Dante was not the primary architect of the corruption. He had allowed me to believe otherwise. He had done it because he thought the truth would put me in danger. I felt betrayed. He had taught me never to confuse assumption with evidence. Yet he had built my entire life around an assumption. Dante watched me. You don't have to forgive him. I know. You don't have to defend him. I know. What do you want to do? I looked at the evidence. Finish it. My licensing hearing moved forward. My credentials were at risk. Dante's lawyers offered evidence. Nothing more. No pressure. No favors. No phone calls to people who could make the problem disappear. For the first time, I understood what he was changing into. He was still dangerous, still powerful, still capable of destroying people who crossed him. But he was learning that love could not be proven by control. And I was learning that independence did not mean refusing help. It meant choosing what kind of help I accepted. If you discovered the person who taught you the truth had hidden the biggest truth from you, would you forgive them or expose everything anyway? I chose exposure. The betrayal inside Dante's organization finally had a name. Adrian Bell, his general counsel, the man everyone trusted because he was calm, reasonable, predictable. Adrian had manipulated legal documents, redirected financial records, fed information to both sides. But he hadn't started the system. His family had. Years earlier, they had created a hidden financial network to protect the organization from political seizure. Over time, protection became control. The network began manufacturing scapegoats, destroying reputations, moving money through people who had no idea what they were part of. Adrian believed he was preserving stability. That was what made him dangerous. He didn't think he was evil. He thought he was necessary. He prepared one final evidence package. It appeared to prove Dante had ordered the original corruption. I read it. Something felt wrong. One timestamp. I checked the archive. The source document used in Adrian's package had not existed in that location on that date. It had been inaccessible. Impossible. I looked at Dante. He made one mistake. What? He wanted us to look at the evidence. I pointed to the timestamp, but he forgot to make the evidence possible. Dante understood. He did not confront Adrian with violence. He called the attorneys. The records were preserved. The chain of custody was documented. Adrian's story collapsed. But before he could be fully questioned, one final file appeared. Adrian had not been acting alone. The remaining financial network was larger than any of us had imagined. It touched legitimate companies, thousands of employees, people who had never chosen to be part of Dante's world. If the entire structure collapsed overnight, innocent people would lose jobs. Families would suffer. Dante faced a choice: protect his empire or expose everything. I told him the truth had to come out. He disagreed, not because he wanted to hide, because he knew what would happen to people who had nothing to do with the corruption. We argued. For the first time, we did not find common ground. I left. I thought that was the end. Instead, Dante began dismantling his own control. He surrendered authority over several companies. He created independent oversight. He separated legitimate businesses from the hidden network. He protected employees before exposing the system. When I saw what he had done, I understood. He wasn't choosing power. He was choosing accountability. But I still planned to leave. The investigation was ending. My career was returning. My life could become mine again. I didn't know where Dante fit into that life. He found me before I left. "You're going?" "Yes." He looked at me. "You're not leaving me." The words were possessive. For 1 second, I remembered the man who had ordered guards to stop me from leaving his office. Then I remembered the man who had given me a choice. The man who had handed me evidence. The man who had allowed me to fight for my own name. I stepped closer. "You're right." His expression changed. "I am leaving you." Silence. "Unless I choose not to." He stared at me. "I won't stay because you own me," I said. "I won't stay because I'm afraid of you. I won't stay because you can protect me." I took a breath. "If I stay, it will be because I choose you." Something in his face broke open. Not weakness, understanding. He nodded. "If you stay," he said, "you can leave whenever you want." That was the answer I had needed. Not a promise that he would never lose me. A promise that he would never lock the door. If someone you loved asked you to stay, but promised you were completely free to leave, would that make you trust them more? I stayed. But the story did not end with a wedding. It ended with a hearing. I stood before the licensing board and presented the evidence. Every forged record, every altered timestamp, every connection, every message. The truth did what I had always believed it would do. It survived. My credentials were restored. Samuel's reputation was reviewed. His mistakes were acknowledged. His intentions were understood. But I did not pretend his lies had never hurt me. Dante's companies were restructured. The hidden network was dismantled through legal proceedings. Adrian and the others faced prosecution. Dante did not kill them. He let the evidence speak. That was the biggest change of all. He still intimidated people. He still carried the weight of his reputation. He still had enemies. But he no longer confused control with protection. As for me, I didn't return to the life I had before. I started my own investigative consultancy. I helped whistleblowers. I audited companies that believed power could keep their secrets safe. And sometimes, late at night, Dante would sit across from me while I worked. He would complain about my handwriting. I would complain about his contracts. Neither of us would mention that 6 years of my life had begun with a question about his name. The original archive remained in my office. Not as a weapon, not as leverage, as a reminder. The day I walked into Dante Moriti's office, I believed truth meant finding the person responsible and destroying him. I was wrong. Sometimes truth means discovering that the person you blamed was also trapped inside the same machine. Sometimes love means refusing to become someone's possession. And sometimes the strongest promise two people can make is not, "I'll never let you leave." It's, "You are free to leave, and I hope you choose to stay." I had entered Dante's world determined to expose him. I left knowing I had changed him, and he had changed me. If you want a next story where another woman walks into a powerful man's world, believing she knows exactly who the enemy is, stay with me. Because the most dangerous secrets are always the ones that look like love until someone finally asks who wrote the story.